We are pleased to have with us today President and CEO of Questor Technology, Inc., Audrey Mascarenhas. Welcome, Audrey.
Thank you, Daryl. It's a pleasure to be here today.
That was so formal. I normally refer to Audrey as my dear friend, and I was just thinking about it the other day. I think we met some 12 years ago. I can't believe it's that long already over in Africa on the other side of the world here. So again, very grateful to have you with us.
And actually, when we met, we were down in South Africa at the World Petroleum Congress.
That's right.
And Daryl was looking very dashing and dapper in his red Mountie suit and was the hit at the trade show booth. And all the girls wanted to have their picture taken next to him.
That is not how I remember it, but thank you for saying that, Audrey. I should gain some traction with that. Thank you very much. And also joining us are four of the young, brightest, upcoming female entrepreneurs in this country. And they will be asking questions for Audrey shortly. Only because we have a limited time, we'll just get right into it. And I wanted to ask the first question to Audrey. And Audrey, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
So I was actually born in Nakuru, Kenya, in East Africa. And when I was young, I wanted to be a concert pianist. And one day my dad pulled me aside and said, look, there's really no future in music. You need to study math and science. And I was devastated. Now, he was probably right, but I'd never say that to him. But we left Kenya, and I started to study math and science. I was still in love with music, but I got to Canada, and of course, I didn't have a piano. But I discovered that my math and science skills endeared me to all the girls in my class because I ended up tutoring them. So all of a sudden, this kid that was 25 years behind, because I lived in a tiny town in Africa, didn't fit in Toronto at all. But all of a sudden, I had a ticket that allowed me to engage with a lot of the girls in my class. I wanted to be a doctor. I graduated from high school, but I didn't have any money, and it was a tough situation in my family. So I thought I needed to quit school and start to work to support the family. And out of the blue, my uncle Oscar showed up, and he said to me, how long have you tried to fix this? I said, my whole life. He said, what makes you think continuing to do the same thing is going to have a different outcome? He says, you're bright. He goes, go to school, get an education, because then you can come back in a different place. And that was probably game changing. So I thought, okay, I have no money, but I'll work a whole bunch of jobs. I'll get some money. And I decided to go into engineering, not because I knew anything about engineering, but I said, you need to be good at math and science. I'm good at math and science. They look like they get jobs when they graduate. I have no idea what they really do, but they get jobs. So I signed up for chemical engineering at the University of Toronto. My first summer job ended up being for Texaco at their Nanticoke refinery. I'm the only first-year student with a real engineering job, and it turned out they'd hired me because they were getting lots of abuse for not being an equal opportunity employer in the United States. And they said, there's no way this 16-year-old is going to survive working night shift with a whole bunch of guys. Then we can say, see, you can't have women at the refinery. Well, it didn't work out that well for them. And before I knew it, I had all these amazing summer jobs, and I graduate. I have 10 job offers to go into oil and gas. I still want to go to med school, but I said I'll work for a couple of years, pay off my student debt, and then I'll go to med school. So it all happened kind of by accident, but now I'm heading up this environmental company that is focused on helping the world deal with emissions, particularly in the oil and gas industry. And I think this was the journey I was supposed to be on.
That's excellent, Audrey, and it's such a great story. I mean, I think I know a little more of the details, and it's just a fascinating story. And as people get to know you and as we have you back, we'll definitely get an opportunity to expand on that. But we'll just get right into the questions, and I believe Jewel from Calgary, who's joining us, will have the first question for you.
Hi, Audrey.
Hi, Jewel. I guess we're in the same neighborhood.
Yeah. So the first question is, what did you find were some of the biggest obstacles you had to overcome as a female and a visible minority in a predominantly white male industry?
So probably the biggest obstacle was getting to show them that I was fully capable. And I'll give you a perfect example. Because of some of the work I had done when I first got to golf, so that was a company I hired on with when I graduated. They had sent me to work with the IT group. And this IT group hadn't had a lot of chance to work with engineers, but they always said, the problem was that, someone would come and tell us what to do, but no one would tell us what they really wanted to do. And we would guess and the project wouldn't work out. So anyway, this was one of the first successful projects they had. And there was another project that wasn't working that well in Edmonton. So I got moved to Edmonton. But once again, it was, you're a girl, you're not going to be able to go out to the field. We only send male engineers there. But it turned out when an opening became available in the field, I was the best person for the job because of the work I'd done on this computer system. So I got the chance to get to the field. But I found in oil and gas there's so many biases against women. And then you throw on a minority woman on top of it, it just makes it tougher, right? So my philosophy has always been, don't worry about those things. Just work really hard and show them that you are capable, that you are smart, and that you can add value, and the rest will take care of itself. And that's certainly, I've never found that not to be the case. That's opened up so many doors for me.
Excellent.
Can I tell one more story?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, this will help illustrate it. So I'm sitting in the Edmonton field office, and our senior vice president comes up and he's telling everyone what his plans are for the next year. And here I am, the only female engineer with 40 male engineers. I'm the only minority in that group too. So the senior vice president says, next year our plan is we're going to hire one woman, one minority, and one disabled person. And I thought, you can only have a conversation with humor on this subject. So I went up to him after and I said, Dan, I'm just kind of curious. If I break my leg, do you get 3 for 1 with me? And there was this big silence. And he looked at me and I said, I know your heart's in the right place, but in making that statement, you've done the greatest disservice to me, because now everyone's looking at me, not because of the competent engineer I am. They're going, I wonder if she got hired because she's a woman. Oh, she's a minority, right? Women want to be recognized for the skills they bring to the table, not that they're women or not that they're minorities. So anyway, we got to become good friends after that. But here was this little 24-year-old or 25-year-old with the nerve to go up to him and say that, but it made a big impact on him.
Excellent. And that's a great story. I'm glad you got that story in for us, Audrey. Our next question, also from Calgary, will be from Naomi. Naomi, it's all yours.
Hi, Naomi.
Hi, Audrey. So I have 2 questions for you. So my first question is, what should I look for in a mentor? And then my second question is, did you have a mentor that stood out for you?
Okay, so in response to the first one, I look at a mentor as someone that connects with you and is wise. So when they say something to you, it just makes a lot of sense and helps guide you. And, I shared the story about my uncle. He had a big impact. The other mentor I had was Greg at the pharmacy. So I was working a couple of jobs and I was trying to save money to get to school at the drugstore. And while I was trying to figure out what I was going to do at school, I landed on the bright idea that I could be a pharmacist. Well, Greg locked me in the store that night and said, "You're not leaving till you promise you won't be a pharmacist." He said, "You count my pills, you deal with the customers. I spend my whole day reading magazines." He says, "I don't want you to be a pharmacist." Now, I wasn't wise at the time, but when I left to go back to school, he said, "Audrey, we may need you for emergencies. So we're going to pay you every month just in case we need you." Now, I thought I was doing them a big favor. In essence, what Greg had done was made sure that I had a chance to be successful at school because he knew how hard I'd worked that summer, with 3 jobs. And I didn't quite have enough, but it was his way of making sure that I did. So mentors are really people that are wise, that, it's not a specific person. It's just making sure that you're open to the wonderful people that cross your path, that connect with you and speak wise words to you and understand your situation. And sometimes you may not even realize they're a mentor, which in my case was many, many years later.
Any follow-up there, Naomi, or you're good? Maybe I'll ask you, Audrey, if you don't mind. If you had to give one piece of advice to a young female entering the workforce as an entrepreneur in business, what key piece of advice would you give them?
So I would say it's going to be tough because the cards are stacked against you, but ignore that. Be willing to work hard because things are changing, society's starting to change. But don't worry, don't worry about that part of it. Just look and believe in yourself, believe in what you're doing. And I always joke and say, you know what? I've got to work twice as hard for people to recognize that I am good at what I do. Sometimes people will ask me, especially at Questor, because we're this clean technology company, we have no debt, we've got this strong balance sheet, and we've been growing from cash flow, which is very, very unusual. And the reason I had to is I knew that my consequences to fail, if I failed, were far greater than for a man, just because that's the way society's based. I also know it's tougher for me to raise money. The statistics all show women entrepreneurs get less. So we know all those things, but you can still be successful despite some of these barriers. And they're starting to change, and people are starting to realize that diversity of thought builds successful companies. So follow your dreams, follow your passion, be willing to work hard, because it is hard work, but it's well worth it in the end.
Next question is from Sarah. Sarah, go ahead.
Hi, Audrey. Hi. Thank you so much for sharing your story so far. I think we share a similar passion in trying to see change. And clearly you're taking the time to get involved with Knowledge is Power Foundation. So I just wanted to hear from your point of view, how important is it to you to give back to the community?
So it's very important to me to give back, and I'll tell you why. So number one, it's because of all the wonderful people that helped me be where I was. And you'll read some of the stories. I grew up in a really tough family background. My father was an alcoholic. My mom struggled with mental health issues. And it was this kindness of different people and really getting the opportunity to come to Canada. I won the lottery, because I was one of 4 girls in an East Indian family. The first thing my grandmother said when she discovered there was 4 girls was, "Oh my goodness, you'll never be able to afford the dowry." Right? So my journey wasn't supposed to get a chance to contribute and follow my dreams or my passions. I was supposed to get married off with a dowry. So every day I'm truly grateful for the journey that I've been able to go on, the education that I've got. So I think it's important for me to to inspire others as they come along, because sometimes it is tough, and I know it's tough for women.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, we're incredibly grateful that you've taken the time to help us and to share your knowledge and your experience.
Yeah, my pleasure. And thank you both for asking. So, yeah.
I'll just see if they're on the line. Alexia, are you with us?
Yes, we're here. I'm not sure if you asked our questions already because we forwarded them on to you with our connection errors there. But we just wanted to know what information or piece of advice you would want to give to someone following in your footsteps.
So I talked a little bit about working hard. There was another really wise thing when I first started my career at golf. It was this poem, and I wish I could find it. I thought I had saved it, and I've been wanting, and I picked up this poem, and the essence of it was really, don't worry about the future because you don't have any control over it. Don't worry about where you think you want to be. Focus in the moment that you are and do the best job you can in the moment, and then all the other things will take care of themselves. And that was game changing for me, because I had gone into golf in oil and gas, recognizing that it was going to be hard because I wasn't the typical oil and gas person. I wasn't male, I wasn't white. I knew I was going to have to work twice as hard. And I was spending all this time worrying about, I've worked so hard to get the education. Am I even going to succeed here? And when I read that, I thought, don't worry about that. It'll just take care of itself. Just be the best engineer in whatever assignment they give you. So, yeah, it's going to be hard work, but be in the moment, show them how good you are and how capable you are.
And have you noticed the change, Audrey? Have you noticed the change over the years? Are you seeing more women, more visible minorities enter this workspace?
Well, I don't see it as much in oil and gas. So I sit on the advisory board for the Faculty of Engineering at the University of Calgary. So one of the struggles we have is we've increased the number of women enrolling in engineering to about 25%, but we're not really seeing a big change in the workplace in sort of women in the middle, management and senior management roles. That's still an exception. And I think part of the reason for that is, it's sometimes difficult to get accepted. It's, I know that I think differently. So sometimes if you're in a room with a whole bunch of other engineers and you say something and it's not in line with what they're thinking, after a while it starts to get tougher to stay in that space. And so I think a lot of women leave the traditional industries and start their own companies or find different places where they can feel accepted. So I know we've got to do better. And I think the whole discussion on that we're starting to have on systemic racism and the Black Lives Matter movement, I think is going to have ripple effects for a lot of things.
Okay.
So I'm hopeful.
Okay. And we promised that we wouldn't keep you too long, so we are going to hold to that promise, and we are going to let you go. We know you're extremely busy, and we will try and twist your arm to have you come back and speak with us again. But any closing remarks for the young female entrepreneurs out there? Like the Knowledge is Power Foundation, our goal is to obviously to share knowledge and information with those, especially those who typically otherwise wouldn't have access to it, whether they're disadvantaged individuals or communities. So is there anything that you just wanted to share with them as a bit of a closing remark?
So I think it's, keep reaching out. There's lots of resources to help. Sometimes they're unexpected and you don't realize they're there. But if you've got a dream or a passion, follow it and work hard to get it, because at the end of the day, it brings great reward and great fulfillment. So don't feel discouraged or shy away. Keep knocking on those doors. one will open and help you on your way. And I know there's a big focus now by companies, by governments to really support women entrepreneurs because they know that businesses without diversity of thought don't do as well. So this is a great time to be a woman entrepreneur.
Excellent, and that's an excellent way to close this power session. Again, Audrey, on behalf of Knowledge is Power Foundation, thank you so much for your time. We look forward to hearing from you again, and maybe next time I can dig up some old pictures from our trip to South Africa and surprise you with some of those at this time, and we'll do it again soon. Take care, Audrey.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye, and thank you.